Okay, I'm here. Good morning. Welcome to All Faiths Unitarian Congregation. My name is Greg Monk, and I will be leading the service this morning. Here you will find a diverse and inclusive spiritual community where we welcome people with many beliefs. You can bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, and your expansive heart. At All Faiths, we have more than one way of experiencing the world and understanding the sacred. No matter who you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, and no matter whom you love, you are truly welcome here. Do we have any first-time visitors this morning? Well, welcome. We are glad that you are with us today. If you'd like to know more about All Faiths, please check with Joyce after the service in our membership corner, which is just behind the folding doors, or please visit our website at www.allfaithsuu.org. We have a few announcements. Our office will be closed all this week while Regina is on a very well-earned vacation. Yes. Today we'll be doing the Share the Plate, and this will be with Visuality, and they are a beneficiary of our Rainbow Connection team. This morning is the last chance to RSVP if you plan to attend the Lee Health Mental Health First Aid class at All Faiths on July 25th. The class runs from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. and lunch is provided, but you have to let Regina know before you leave today for that. Next Sunday, the McGregor Clinic collection will be coordinated by Joyce Schaefer. And on Sundays at 9:15, we'll have News Talk with Ray Ellis. Please, everyone, rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 361. Enter, rejoice, and come in. The words are on the back of your order of service. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Thank you. As Marge DeGalbo comes forward to light our chalice this morning, please join all of us in reciting the words for the chalice lighting in your order of service. As we light this chalice, may we be
energized to find our passion, to reach for the stars, to change the world, so that all people may live with freedom, justice, and equity.
Thank you. I have different words than you, but I like yours better. Joyce?
Good morning, everyone. Today we have our large candle lit in memory of Mary Ellen Taylor. Mary Ellen was a longtime member of All Faiths. She passed away this week at the Springs at Shell Point. Her daughters were here with her, and they're probably going back to Minnesota today. Please keep Mary Ellen in your thoughts and prayers. She was a very precious, very special lady who kept her spirits very high through her long struggle, and she's kind of a wonderful role model on how we should deal with these struggles of life. I'm lighting a candle for Bob Way. Bob Way is in the hospital. He went in on Friday for weakness, and the cardiologist said his heart is fine, but they're going to be doing observations. I'm also lighting a candle. Eileen and Jeff Moran's son died in California this week. Now I invite any of you who have any joys and sorrows that you'd like to share with us to please come forward.
Good morning, I'm Dottie Mayall. By lighting a candle, I'm going to thank Mary Ellen Taylor for our friendship. Mary Ellen Taylor had such a sort of low-key personality, and yet she loved the Cracker Box restaurant on McGregor, which gets sort of up and rowdy. So we had some good times. Thank you.
I'm Tina Noel, and I have a joy. Last month, I brought you the news that our goddaughter, Jocelyn, was becoming a citizen, which did happen. And I just got the news yesterday. She's been accepted to law school at UW and starts the 26th of September. So we just hold them up.
I always say it's so nice when we have some joys to share too. I remember when we used to have more baby showers and weddings. And so I hope you all have a wonderful week. And I'm lighting this candle for those of you who have joys and sorrows in your heart. And please reach out to those who are at home alone that need your support.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask everyone to close your eyes, to take a deep breath, and to let us turn our minds and our hearts to today's service and to contemplate our many blessings. And now, please rise and bow to your spirit as we sing together hymn number 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Move
Our opening words this morning are from Abraham Joshua Heschel. He was a Jewish theologian and philosopher born in 1907. In his 1962 book, The Prophets, he focused on Jewish prophets, the men who saw injustice in the world and whose mission was to be a voice for the poor and the oppressed. Rabbi Heschel wrote, "The more deeply immersed I became in the thinking of the prophets, the more powerfully it became clear to me that what the lives of the prophets sought to convey, that morally speaking, there is no limit to the concern one must feel for the suffering of human beings, that indifference to evil is worse than evil itself, and that in a free society, some are guilty, but all are responsible." So ends the reading.
Where is the justice when the guilty all go free? Why don't we lock them up and throw away the key? I see a young man's anger burning in your eyes. What you see is my impatience with your noble compromise. Show me what's right about the wrongs that we below. Real people need to feel protected here and now. This whole damn system's way be broken, repair. Law, not law and order, good and seldom fair. Laws are made for everyone, we're treated all the same, till lawyers' tricks can all the blame. What about the victims waiting for some justice? How can we turn away and say that's just the way things are? What about the families holding for their houses? All of them afraid to walk the streets at night with all their doors locked tight. Tell me, where is the justice, if there's any justice? Your simple arguments have all been made before. The world's not black and white, the choice not either or. Perhaps it's time to drain the color from it then, till we're back to seeing black and white and wrong and right again. Overall pronouncements won't make a paradigm. Lawyers, the forms of crime. Let the corporations make the regulations and hold no one accountable when everything goes wrong. Let the rich and famous get away with murder. Every time a high-priced mouthpiece starts to talk, a client gets to walk. Tell me, where is the justice? Where is this justice? If there's any justice, the politicians made their speeches all day long, while judges pushing pencils and get it wrong. Instead of loopholes for the lows and in between, it's just good and winning. Isn't everybody sick of all this stuff? Can't we stand up and say enough? Justice, justice, justice. Land for now or justice, justice, justice. Now's the time for justice.
Are we? Yes, we're live. Okay. Our reading this morning is from Doing Justice, Congregations and Community Organizing. It's written by Dennis A. Jacobson. Congregation-based community organizing seeks to restore the human face, freed of the masks imposed by racism and classism, freed of the masks worn to survive the streets of urban America, freed of the masks of victimization and self-deprecation. Congregation-based community organizing seeks authentic relationships based on mutual recognition and mutual regard. An old rabbi once asked his students, "How do you know when the night is over and the day has dawned?" One student raised his hand. "Could it be, Rabbi, that it is when you look in the distance and see a tree and can tell whether it's a fig tree or a peach tree?" "No," said the rabbi. Another student raised his hand. "Could it be, Rabbi, that it is when you look in the distance and see an animal and can tell whether it is a sheep or a goat?" "No," answered the rabbi. "Well, tell us then," implored the students. "Tell us how we can know when the night is over and the day has dawned." The old man responded, "It is when you can look into the face of any man or woman and see there the face of your brother or sister. Because if you cannot do that, no matter how bright it is, you are still in the night." That's our reading this morning. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 121, "We'll Build a Land." Again, the words are printed in your order of service.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the
Oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promise land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace ever flowing stream. We'll build a land where we'll bring up good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll be a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down
Good morning. My name is Marcia Bates, and my husband Chris Stotler and I have attended All Faiths for about 10 years. Many of you may have previously heard some of the stories I'm about to tell, and I apologize for being repetitive, but these are stories that shaped my transition into a person who's passionate about social justice. So what is social justice? Well, according to Merriam-Webster, justice is a state or doctrine of egalitarianism, a belief in human equality, especially with respect to social, political, and economic affairs. That definition certainly meshes with my belief that all humans have inherent worth and dignity, and that all should be treated equitably and with respect. When Joyce Ramey asked that I speak about why I am passionate about social justice, my first thought was, well, that's easy. I was married to a black man for 12 years. I have 2 biracial children from that marriage, and I have witnessed the injustices they have experienced due to their skin color. But as I thought more about it, I realized that from an early age I had started questioning unjust beliefs and treatment of those who were different. I was raised a Baptist. The first few years in an independent Baptist church where I heard the minister preach hellfire and damnation sermons. He railed about sin and God's intent to damn any non-Christian to that eternal pit of fire. Now, when I think back on those sermons, I realize he was selling fire insurance. When I was in upper elementary school, we started attending an American Baptist church, which taught that God is a loving God, not an angry, vengeful God. I started questioning whether that loving God would really damn people in Africa or Asia who had never heard of Christ. I had never heard of Unitarians or Universalists at that point in my life. Now I realized I had embraced the Universalist concept that God is too good to damn people, which in my 11-year-old mind especially applied to people who had never heard of Christ. So my first step on the social justice path was questioning the institution that decreed that there was only one path to God. Although I rejected the idea that Christ is the only path to God, I embraced other lessons from my Baptist upbringing. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Love thy neighbor as thyself. The basic tenets of Christ's teachings. One New Testament parable greatly influenced me, the story of the Good Samaritan. Remember that one? A Jewish man traveling along a dangerous stretch of road was set upon by robbers who beat him, stripped him, and left him for dead. When a rabbi passed by, he crossed to the other side of the road to avoid the injured man. A little while later, a Levite, that's a Jewish holy man, did the same. Then a Samaritan passed by. You need to understand that Jews considered Samaritans to be socially inferior because Samaritans married pagans and did not abide by Jewish laws. And the feeling was pretty mutual. Samaritans avoided Jews. However, this Samaritan bound the injured man's wounds and took him to an inn where the Samaritan further cared for the Jew's injuries. When leaving, he paid the innkeeper to look after the man and promised to pay more the next time he passed through if those funds were insufficient. That story shaped my belief that you don't ignore the plight of others, no matter their race or religious beliefs. Although I grew up in a small southeastern Ohio town, I was fortunate to get a little glimpse into other cultures. When I was 9 or 10 years old, the Ohio Farm Bureau sponsored an agricultural exchange program with India. My parents hosted an Indian farmer in our home while he toured various local farms, learning about practices used to enhance crop yield. J. Bihari Lal was exotic, dark-skinned, spoke with a thick accent, and he was kind. He had children, so he paid attention to us younger Bateses. I learned firsthand that people from other countries were nice people, and even if they practiced a different religion. I must confess that my beliefs didn't sit well with many in the Baptist faith. When I was in my upper teens, I was selected to sit on the state board of the Girls Guild, an organization for Baptist girls. When I was home for spring break, my freshman year of college, I attended a board meeting where we were planning the program for the November ingathering of Baptist girls from across the state. I made a passionate case about non-Christian religions having value and said we could promote religious tolerance if our fall program included sessions about the beliefs of various non-Christian religions. Well, within a day of returning home from that planning session, I got a phone call and I was told that I was no longer acceptable to serve on the Girls Guild State Board. I didn't have the appropriate attitude or beliefs. The idea that I would want to showcase non-Christian religions was blasphemous, according to the woman who was the advisor to the board. So I became a disgraced Baptist, which actually I kind of consider to be an honor. The summer before my junior year of college, I worked at an electric utility in Columbus, Ohio. I hung out with the other college kids working there, including a certain electrical engineering student who happened to be black. Unlike the other students whose purpose for working was to fulfill an academic requirement to do an internship, Robert and I were self-financing our educations. We had to work to pay tuition and board. We understood each other. By the end of the summer, we had become a couple and married a few years later. Robert worked as an electrical engineer for the utility where we had met, and after graduating, I started my environmental scientist career. After a year of marriage, Robert was transferred to a power plant located in rural Ohio, more than an hour away from Columbus and our network of liberal college friends. We started searching for an apartment in a town of about 30,000 that was a half-hour commute from the generating station. We scoured the real estate section of the local newspaper, circling the ads that indicated apartments were available. Now, I was 7 months pregnant at the time, at an awkward stage where climbing in and out of Robert's little car was difficult. So Robert would go into the rental office to inquire about the availability of a unit. However, at every agency, he was told that all the apartments were rented, no vacancies. After having no luck at 3 or 4 agencies, we backtracked, and I went into the same offices where Robert had inquired about apartments earlier in the day. Lo and behold, there would be units available when I asked about apartments. So rather than renting, we purchased a small house in a nice neighborhood. It belonged to a corporation that had transferred the previous owner to another city, so we didn't have to deal with owners who didn't want to sell to a biracial family. The first night we stayed there, we left my little Volkswagen Beetle parked on the driveway. When we got up the next morning, there were racial slurs written all over the car. I remember scrubbing those hateful words off the car, wondering, what have we done? Tears streaming down my face. Remember, I was 7 months pregnant, so my hormones were raging. But our baby boy was adorable. He was our ambassador with the neighbors, and as the neighbors got to know us, most were accepting. I could tell many stories about racial injustice that I learned from my in-laws or experienced firsthand. They cover several decades, actually. Robert's father served in the Navy during World War II. After finishing basic training, he was assigned to one of the first Navy ships that was being racially integrated. For 3 weeks, Melvin and the other black sailors had to sleep on the deck of the ship, exposed to the elements, because the person who assigned sleeping quarters refused to give them a bunk. Then fast forward about 3 decades. It was probably 1979 or 1980, the night Robert and I were returning home from a social event when we were pulled over by a state highway patrolman. We hadn't been speeding. All our taillights were working and intact. I didn't know why we were being stopped. Besides asking to see Robert's ID and vehicle registration, the patrolman asked Robert what his occupation was, probably assuming that the car was stolen, since in his mind, a black man certainly couldn't afford a brand new turbocharged Porsche. Then the officer asked me if I knew this man, gesturing toward Robert. I quite indignantly replied, "He's my husband." The officer never apologized, simply gave Robert his license and registration back and walked away. Robert's crime? Driving an expensive sports car while black. Fast forward again to 2018. I was in a nice department store with my daughter, who is darker skinned than me and obviously biracial. After a bit, I realized that a store employee was following us as we moved from area to area of the store. When I pointed out to my daughter that we were being tailed, Robin simply replied, "Welcome to my world, Mom." It happens to her frequently. Those incidents, and many, many others, intensified my disgust and concern about the racial inequities in our country. My reaction to social justices evolved over time. Initially, I simply felt concern for victims of unjust treatment. I would vent my feelings about disturbing situations to like-minded friends, bewailing the institutions of power whose policies created and sustained social injustices. Once I was financially able, I donated to organizations that operated food banks or provided safe havens for children to interact or served the homeless, and I still do. Then my actions became a bit more political. I started writing letters to senators, representatives, and other officials to call them out for enacting unjust laws or creating policies that harm everyday citizens. Here in Florida, unfortunately, there has been ample opportunity to do that, especially recently. Through AllFace, I became aware of Lee Interfaith for Empowerment. They go by the acronym LIFE. For those of you who aren't familiar, LIFE is a group of 15 churches that work together to influence Lee County officials to legislate laws or adopt policies that make our community a more just place to live. I have learned many things from LIFE. At one of the first LIFE gatherings that I attended, the speaker talked about righteous anger. At first, I was taken aback. I was raised in a quiet Midwestern family and was taught that anger is bad. But the minister explained that righteous anger is anger that is spurred by an unjust situation. I have learned that righteous anger is a good thing. That anger tells us something is wrong and should be fixed. It motivates us to act. I also learned about good trouble. One of the clergymen who often speaks at life events defines good trouble as actions that might be considered troublesome by some people, but they are necessary to engender a change to an unjust situation. This isn't a new concept. Bayard Ruskin, a civil rights activist who worked with Dr. Martin Luther King, once said, "We need in every bay and community a group of angelic troublemakers." I really like that term, angelic troublemakers. I also learned that life defines justice as speaking truth to power and holding institutions of power and money accountable. They point out that there are two sources of power: organized money and organized people. Large numbers of organized people get the attention of lawmakers and large corporations, and sometimes the media. By motivating large numbers of people, life demonstrates to those in power that many of their constituents are demanding change to remediate an unjust situation, law, or policy. Large numbers of organized people can speak more loudly than a lone social justice warrior or a lone organization. Examples of life's accomplishments in the past 13 years include influencing the Lee County Board of Education to train its staff in anti-bullying tactics and providing anti-bullying programs for students. Getting the county commissioners to provide $1.6 million to expand services for children. Convincing the city of Fort Myers to revise their applications for employment to remove the box asking whether the applicant had ever been arrested. Those victories were accomplished through people power. In 2020, more than 1,000 people joined Life's Nehemiah Action that, due to COVID, was held via Zoom. That night, Sheriff Marcino committed to have mental health professionals from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, provide crisis intervention training to Lee County deputies. After seeing the positive results from training deputies, Sheriff Marcino also had NAMI train his dispatchers and other staff. Families who have members with mental health issues have reported that law enforcement's interactions with their loved ones have been much more positive since that training was completed. I want to point out that successful social justice warriors are not people who dwell only in a negative space, growing frustrated and bitter at the world's injustices. Although they see the injustice, they have the capability to envision a better world. They have hope. Think about Dr. Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. He urged the crowd that had gathered for the March on Washington not to wallow in despair. And he went on to talk about his dream for America, hoping that one day the nation would live out the true meaning of its creed that all men are created equal, and that his children would live in a nation where they would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And we're still hoping that. So you can live life quietly, loving your neighbor and sympathizing with those who are less fortunate, and feeling angry about institutions that victimize other human beings. But anger isn't enough. Anger without action can become detrimental. It can make one cynical and bitter. And there are plenty of things that arouse righteous anger in me: the plight of the homeless, Florida's Don't Say Gay laws, politicians who want to control women's lives by taking away their freedom to choose, the violent police interactions. My list goes on, and I suspect you each have lists of things that anger you. The question becomes, what do you do with that anger? We have many opportunities at All Faiths to work on social justice issues: Heart for the Homeless, Racial Equity Team, Climate Action Team, Rainbow Connection, Operation Joy, and of course, Life. I challenge you to become involved, to take action to make Lee County a more just place to live. Before I close, I want to call attention to Edmund Burke's quote that is printed at the top of your order of service. Edmund Burke was an Irish politician who lived in the 1700s, but his words are still relevant today. He said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." Think about that. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men and women to do nothing. I would also like us to embrace Bayard Ruskin's idea that every community needs a band of troublesome angels. I propose that we have a band of troublesome angels right here at All Faiths. May it be so.
Nice job, Marcia. That was great. So, if you would like to contribute to All Faiths to support our services, you can mail checks or visit our website at www.allfaithsuu.org, and our morning offering will now be taken. There's a hero. If you look inside your heart, you don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer if you reach into your soul, and the sorrow that you know will melt away. Then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. It's a long road when you face the world alone. No one reaches out a hand for you to hold. You can find love if you search within yourself, and the emptiness you felt will disappear. Then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. Lord knows dreams are hard to follow, but don't let anyone tear them away. Hold on, there will be tomorrow. In time, you'll find the way. Then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong,
and you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. That a hero lies in you. That a hero lies in you.
Our closing words come from Dennis Jacobson, the author of Doing Justice, Congregations and Community Organizing. Mr. Jacobson wrote, "Those summoned to do justice will get battered around in life. Over the decades, their early idealism may be covered with soot of repeated disappointment. The world, as they experience it, may actually seem a worse place now than when they began their struggle for justice years ago. But the Spirit who first summoned them will also fill them with light and grace. So may our social justice warriors, our band of troublesome angels, be filled with light and grace."
As Carlos mentioned earlier, the congregation is invited to sing along for the chorus with our postlude. The words are on page 2 of your order of service.
They'll never know just who you are, but they can't turn your bright star dark. They'll try to hold your spirit down. Couldn't do it then, can't do it now. They'll try to tell you who to be, but they can't change the way you feel. Can't tame a wild heart, you are free, free, free as the grass that's right under your feet, free as the sky underneath your wings, free as the wind and the river flowing to the sea. From you, no walls can keep your hearts from your dreams. Free as just knowing that you were born to be free, free, free. They'll try to tell you where to go, try to put chains around your soul, but they could never hold you back, 'cause you were built too strong for that. Can't tame a wild heart, free as the know your feet, free as the field, free as just flint and the river flowing to the sea, free as the feeling they can't take from you. No walls can keep your hearts from your dream, free as just knowing that you try to tell you who you be, but they can't change the way you feel. Can't tame a wild heart. You are free, free, free as the grass that's right under your feet, free as the sky underneath your wings, free as the wind and the river flowing to the sea, free as the feeling they can't take from you. No walls can keep your hearts from your dreams, free as just knowing that you were born to be free, free, free.
I talk loud, but not that loud. We thank Marcia Bates for her inspiring message this morning. Carlos Garcia for the music, Regina Kilmartin on camera, Ed Elrod on sound, Joe Gayton, our sexton, and our friendly greeters. It is good to be connected and to stay together in whatever way that we can. As Marge, thank you, comes forward to extinguish our chalice, please join in reciting the words in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Go now in peace, and feel free to join us in the social hall for coffee and cookies.